Welcome back to another episode of Creatives on the Couch. Today we're joined by Ben Dixon, book author, of
right.
teenage books, am I right?
That's right, yeah.
Hiya.
Okay.
Hi.
Welcome to our show, sir. What a
pleasure to be
journey
here.
you've had. All the way from Guildford. How was the journey?
Well, I split it up over 2 days, so halfway yesterday and stopped with a friend in Nottingham and then did the rest this morning.
Oh, that's nice.
That was smart, because it's not local, is it? It's quite
No.
way away.
Well, I hope we're going to be worth it.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Thank you for travelling so far.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah,
And how are you?
I'm all right.
You had a nice week?
I've had an eventful week. I'm
Oh.
literally running on 4 hours sleep per night at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my days.
All the planning that I've got for the awards and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
She never stops,
Yeah.
Ben, seriously. It's just absolutely crazy. So, right, let's go right the way back so we can delve really deep into you and find out what you're all about. As the actress said to the bishop.
That kind of
be
show.
scared. Be
Didn't
scared.
know it was that kind of show, did we, really? When did you find your love of literature and writing?
I suppose I've always been a reader. And I think when I was playing Game of Life when you were younger and you get the careers, journalist always appealed to me. Perhaps because it had 20k salary, which was the highest one at the time. Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a reader, and I suppose later when I was, I wrote horror stories, humorous horror stories, and recorded them before podcasts were really a thing in my late teens, which were very silly. And in fact, one of them ended up forming the ending of my first book.
Right.
I didn't know how to finish it, and I melded it in with this silly horror story that I'd written years ago. And then I'm a teacher by day job, and I wrote school plays, and they were humorous school plays. So much so that the children didn't really know they were saying anything funny. And it was only when we had someone to come in to do sound effects, another adult, that he was falling about laughing at what the children were saying, and they thought, oh, is this actually funny?
Wow.
And that was actually part of the joy of it, because they didn't realise they were saying humorous things, and they just really got into the parts. So yeah, it stemmed from there. That's where.
So what sort of age were you around about that time then? When's
so
that your life?
Late teens writing my humorous horror stories, and then mid-20s doing the.
That's when you went into the
writing
teaching side of
school
things.
plays, yeah.
Oh my days! See, horror. You know me. The horror's my thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So yeah, you got me at that one anyway. So
So you were a school teacher. Are you an English school teacher? Or was it?
I teach French.
You teach French?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that's surprising actually. I thought you'd be an English teacher.
No, I suppose it might make sense. In fact, one of the chapters in the first book is set in a French lesson.
Right.
The main character, has a crush on a little girl in his class, and it's about how they have to work together in the French lesson. But it's not. It hasn't made its way into the book beyond that. But yeah, I'm a French teacher by
So
day.
are you a cool teacher? I bet you're down with the kids.
I
aren't
reckon you are.
Yes.
I don't know if any of them are watching. They'll probably disagree. But I think some of them have been
Right
have been very surprised when they've read it that a teacher who always sticks to the rules is willing to write something that is so cheeky, because it's the main character always tells the truth, and because of that, it's always very plain speaking, and they were surprised that. Well, Mr. Dixon wrote these books. It's rude.
I guess they'd think you're cool for that though.
Well, I think so, yeah.
would.
They've certainly seen another side to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You always remember really, really cool teachers, don't
Yeah.
you? Who was your favourite teacher at school?
Mr. Matthews.
Seriously?
He was a history teacher, believe it or not.
Okay.
I find history quite boring. Well, I did at school, I don't now. But he, outside of the class, during the corridors and stuff, he was amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Which school did you go to? Where were you?
Turbs Green Girls, it was called.
See, I went to Ridgewood Comprehensive in Doncaster, and there was 2 teachers. There was a guy called Mr. Herbert, and you always remember your amazing teachers. So Mr. Herbert was the one who really pushed me, and always told me to follow my dreams. And then my food studies teacher was called Mrs. Parry, and I'd been searching for her for years and years, just to try and find out what had happened to her. And I found her a few weeks ago. I actually found her, and she's in a care home now.
Oh.
She's in her 90s, and so I went and surprised her.
Oh, wow.
And I walked in with a big bunch of flowers and a box of chocolates, and yeah, we sat for nearly 2 hours just
beautiful.
talking and reminiscing. So you always remember the impact that people have had on your life, and your students will, you know, hopefully.
Yeah, well, actually, I've named some of the teachers in the book after my teachers.
Seriously.
That's clever. I was going to ask you actually, where do you get your inspiration from? Are any of these based on, you know, true events that you've seen in school?
Yeah. Well, actually, more from my own childhood,
Okay.
because when I was younger, pastoral care and things like that didn't really exist, did they? You know, bullies were allowed to thrive.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're much more on that sort of thing, and it gets cut out before it becomes an issue. But obviously, lots of funny incidents happened because I know bullying isn't funny at all, but you can get a lot of humour out of those situations. For instance, there's one true story of two boys in the lunch hall. One of them was a bit of a bully, one was a bit of a victim. The victim goes up to get a knife and fork or something, and the bully fills his pockets with custard. Both of them. He gets back, finishes his lunch, puts his jacket on, shows his hands in his pockets, and they're full of custard. Challenges the bully to a fight after lunch. So they go down to the spinney, and the victim gets in a traditional boxing stance, and the bully just smacks him right on the nose, and he says, "Oh, me cartilage," and that has got directly into my book. But yeah, the inspiration for the names, a lot of it has come from the teachers. One teacher actually didn't like being in there.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'd used his name, and he was a real inspiration to me when I was younger. And I made him, he was my class teacher, I just used the name on this already created character of a PE teacher who was a bit lazy and useless. He sits down and uses a loud hailer to teach his lessons. And the teacher read the book and then took great offence that I portrayed him as that. And I had to say, no, I'm not portraying you as that. This is a character, I just used your name.
Yeah.
But thankfully everybody else seems to have been flattered and honoured that they're...
So who were your inspirations growing up then? Who were these teachers?
A chap who's teaching maths in the book is named after my A-level French teacher, Mr. Campbell, who was a great influence on me. And he's read both books and is very honoured, I think, to be in there. My French teacher, from my first year French teacher, when I was in year 7, she is the French teacher, the same name for Neil Peel. And then there's this sports one. And then I had a crush on my first teacher when I was in whatever it was, year 2 or something, and her name is the headmistress.
Oh, really? You're right, okay. Did you ever have a crush on yours?
No, there weren't any nice teachers in school when I went to school.
No, you see, I did. It was the PE one.
Really? No.
It was PE. I'm not going to mention his
really?
name. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
I went to a girls' school, so everybody was miserable.
Really?
Apart from Mr. Matthews. Yeah. I didn't want to be
Mr. Matthews.
Yeah. I didn't fancy him though. He wasn't nice. But no. They're nice looking now though. A lot of the teachers now, I'm telling you. I couldn't be a student now. They're good looking now. I might go back to school.
So let's have a look at these. So these books, what genre are these aimed at, Ben?
Well, it's humorous fiction, and
okay. So, but you say it's a little bit naughty, so they're not the children's books. So,
I think you have to be 11 or over really
to really sort of get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the adults who read it get another level, because I sort of wrote them to entertain myself as well.
Right.
And so the children understand some of the jokes, but the adults get an extra level.
So they get their they get the humour. So. Because, I mean, innuendo is brilliant. So, are we talking innuendo?
Yes.
I love that.
Yep.
Love it.
And some of it's situational as well.
So which one's first? Which one came first?
The one you've got, the heroic truths.
Okay.
Was the first one. Yeah.
So for I mean, obviously, people can buy this. Where can they pick this up?
Amazon, Waterstones, W.H. Smith's.
Oh wow!
So you are everywhere.
Oh my God.
We're talking bestseller.
Not a bestseller yet, but
will be.
You're in Waterstones.
Although when the second one came out, it did go to #1 on the Amazon hot new releases in that category.
Amazing.
Oh my days! I want a signed copy.
So do I. Can we?
So what are they about? Take us through.
So the main character Neil Peel is a boy who always tells the truth. And the first chapter explains why, and it's to do with his older sister, Lemony Peel. Well, she's actually called Melanie, but there's a reason why she's always known as Lemony. She's the girl with the yellow dress on the front cover.
Okay.
And he lives in a place called Lower Piercing, and he's just finished at Prince Albert School.
Prince what?
Prince Albert, yeah.
Prince Albert
Need to
School?
read
Yeah, in
these
Lower
books.
Piercing. And he's heading to his new school called Titfield.
Okay.
And he's worried about what everyone's going to think of his truth telling. He's going to get in trouble. Will the teachers understand? And he's got his group of good friends are going with him, and they all understand and know what he's like. And it doesn't take too long before he's got the bullies after him. In fact, it's on the school bus before they even get in on the first day. And life for people that age is half school and half home. And so he's got his extended family is all in there. He's got a religious Auntie Sue who is
We've
very...
all got a religious
Yeah.
Auntie
We
Sue,
have.
haven't
I
we?
actually have.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
She's very pious, and of course there's situations brewing there. His older sister, Lemony, hates him. It's a kind of tolerate-hate relationship, which I've really enjoyed writing her character. She's the most fun to write.
Okay.
His parents and his grandparents, and he's got a demonic cousin called Nikolai who comes over at Christmas and ruins his Christmas. And the plot builds towards this incident at the end where the bullies are trying to force one of Neil's gang into robbing an old lady's house.
Okay.
And it happens to be one of Neil's friends' grandma's old house, so they set up an elaborate plot to foil the bullies. And yeah, that's the climax of the first one. And then the second one, they go on holiday. And that's Lemony gets a holiday romance, and Neil is unsure of the boy, the romance.
Has he got a fabulous name as well?
He has, yes. He's called Steve Teppels, which if you're Dutch, it has a double meaning. I'm not going to say what it
Oh my
means.
god, I'm going to Google that later.
Yeah,
There's gonna be people all over.
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, he's a villain of that piece, and obviously this love-hate relationship he has with his sister,
Okay.
he suspects, and he has to help her out.
Oh, right, okay.
So there's always a heart in the stories as well. That's the idea. Yeah.
Do you know, wouldn't this make an amazing TV series?
You took the words right out of my brain. I was just about to ask you, would you ever consider putting this into a TV series?
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
when I'm writing it, you picture it visually.
Yeah.
And I think the chapters are quite episodic, so it could easily like there's.
So what are your plans then for the future for these books? Do you plan to write some more? Do you plan to potentially have a series coming? Where do you see these books going?
I've just about finished the third one.
Right, okay.
At the end of the second one, he gets called into school, and he's got a position of responsibility, and there's a new boy who comes in, and the third one is called Neil Peel's Rival, because all the way through the third book they've got beef going on between them.
Yeah. Smash him in the face.
Yeah. Well,
Picture it.
that will be that is probably going to be the end of it, because the fact that he always tells the truth, I think I can make it realistic up till he's 13 years old.
Okay.
But going beyond that,
Imagine
I'm
saying
not-
that Bart Simpson's been going for 23 million years and he's still 10 years old.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think going beyond that, it might be pushing it a little bit. I mean, part of the inspiration for writing them was the Adrian Mole books,
Sure,
which
of
were
course.
humorous fiction aimed at the same age group as mine. And then nobody took on the mantle of humorous fiction for teens. And they were so popular and so well loved. And I don't quite understand why nobody went forward with that. And
Yeah.
they're coming up to 40 years old now, aren't they? So
Goodness me.
yeah, they were early 80s ones, so I thought, well, if you ask a child, what would you like to watch as a film, they'll often say a comedy.
Yeah.
So why not the same with a book? And actually, reluctant readers, people who won't usually pick up a book, have found these to be things that they are willing to read. And one of the
Totally.
reviews on Amazon says that my son came down at 10:30 at night saying, I finished,
I
because he
finished
just
Oh,
couldn't.
wow.
I think that's
Couldn't
what
put it
I was
Wow.
like growing up. It was always Roald Dahl for me, and he has that cheeky kind of humour. If you look at the Twits, George's Marvellous Medicine,
Oh,
you know that
yeah.
the boy who
Yeah.
hates the grandmother and makes the concoction and sends her up into space and everything like that. So you know, obviously yours is innuendo and that kind of comedy. But what I'm trying to say is, growing up, where did you get your inspiration from for that side of things? Did you read Roald Dahl and Enid Blyton and people like that?
Yes, all of those. Yeah, Secret Seven and Enchanted Wood.
Faraway
and
Tree.
then I suppose Harry Potter and things like that later on. But those are all have that kind of fantastical vibe, but not real life.
Right. Yeah.
And I wanted to make it so that it could be, and they're taken to extremes, the situations.
Okay. But it can be played out in
Yes,
any school
you
playground.
could think that
Yeah.
that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got you.
All the events are, realistic but slightly extreme.
So who was your favourite author growing up?
Oh,
Ooh, that's put you on the spot.
that's tough. As a children's author, probably Enid Blyton, I'd have thought, when I was younger. Yeah.
Wow. I always wanted to be Moonface. You know, I
Yes.
wanted to be up that faraway tree.
Yeah.
You know, and go into all these magical lands and stuff
The
like
toffee.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and toffee shocks and just
Yeah.
escape from reality. And I think there's something really magical about those books. And then, like I just said, discovering Roald Dahl. You know, the first one I ever wrote was The Witches, and I just became completely and utterly obsessed with Roald Dahl books. There's a magic, isn't there? You know, a childhood magic that continues into adult life, really. So do you still hold? I mean, you know,
Yes,
would you sit down with an Enid Blyton book?
Well, I'm
now?
reading The Wishing Chair to my 10-year-old daughter at the moment, so I'm revisiting
Yeah.
Blyton and all of those, and Roald Dahl. We just finished James and the Giant's Peach before that, so yes, I'm revisiting them all.
That was one of my favourites.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And Matilda, the new musical's coming into the cinemas, isn't it? It's out, and you know, I
Yeah, that's
love that
fantastic,
it's appealing to a whole new generation. You've got the stage shows, you've got the Broadway
Yeah.
shows, you've got the movies coming out. They're you know, you've got Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, iconic. Then the remake with Johnny Depp, and the new one just called Wonka.
Yes.
It's just, I'm so glad that they're revisiting these things. Would you do anything like that? Would you write anything to do with fantasy? So would you write anything like? Would you step away from these and go into a fantasy realm or anything? Do you think?
Well, the plan after I finished the third one is I've got a couple of options. The reason I actually started writing a book was my mum recommended that I enter a thriller writing competition through one of the national newspapers. You had to send in the first 5,000 words and a synopsis. So I started writing a thriller, which is actually what I read these days, more thrillers. And I didn't win, so I put that aside. And I wasn't really being drawn back to write it, really wanting to finish it. Whereas with these, I want to have free time. I want to carry on writing all the time. So this is what I'm drawn to, but I have a desire somewhere in there to go back and revisit that one.
Yeah.
So I might step into, but it wouldn't be fantastical. I know that that sort of thing is extremely popular, and in fact, when I was writing these, I wanted to find a niche in the market which wasn't already taken, and that's what I have done. But it turns out that people read what they like,
Yeah.
and that's something I've found out, that people aren't really willing to give new genres a try so easily. If they like fantasy, they read fantasy. So if you go into that market, you find your readers more easily. But I think I would probably write it and not be able to resist putting in the cheeky jokes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You quite.
I would find that quite
Well,
hard.
obviously, I mean, being on here today is going to open, you to a whole new genre of people who are going to be thinking. I mean, you've got us to hooked.
yeah.
I've never even thought about this genre for years, but I know I'll be going home tonight and just like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
let's just have a flick through this, and it's good to laugh, isn't it?
Yeah.
Innuendo is fun.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
yeah, they're not very PC.
That's,
we
that's
like that,
fine.
but,
That's fine. What I wanted to ask you is, typically, how long would it take you to write a book? So, say if you say you want to write, Neil Peel's Holiday, how long does that take you to write you? Do you do a couple of drafts first? What's the process?
Well, the process is, because I've got a day job. Some people say that you should write, just always be writing, and then they write 120,000 words and chop 40 of them out, throw them away, and I think, well, that's a lot of wasted time there.
Yeah.
So I gather my ideas, write them down, write down the jokes in a notebook while I'm in term time teaching, and then when I've got my holidays, well, I know what my plan is, and I've sorted it all out gradually. So then I can just write. Now, they probably both took about 9 or 10 months to write.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, but mainly a big drive over the summer holidays when I've got 7 weeks off and I can.
So do you do like a flow chart or anything to follow through so that you know where everything's following on? Or
Each of the some people don't put chapter names in, but I put named chapters and thought, right, well, this is the structure. So I didn't do a flow chart, but I knew what all the chapters were going to be and what happens in each one.
okay.
And I like to know what's going to happen at the end before I start. So where the
That makes sense now. Doesn't
Yeah.
it? Then you kind of know where you've got. You don't go off on a tangent then when you're writing.
no, I mean there
See,
are
some people do that regarding murder mysteries, don't they? They'll read the end first to find out who's done it and then go,
And then
back,
go back.
and start Agatha Christie all over again.
yeah.
No, I like the suspense. I like to know what's
course.
coming. It's got to have a surprise.
No, well, I do like to know the direction I'm heading
Makes
in.
sense.
And as I said with the first one, I did have I had an original ending, but it wasn't strong enough, so it just became a chapter in the middle where Neil overhears his dad on the phone saying "I love you" to another woman, and he thinks
Okay.
he thinks something's happening there, and as it doesn't turn out to be like that at all. He was someone's designing a cake. And he wants to write "I love you" on because it's coming up to his anniversary. And this was going to be the big denouement, and then it wasn't really
Right.
strong enough to be an ending.
Yeah, yeah.
It's quite a fun chapter, but I wanted it to be more exciting than that. So that one did change partway through, but with the holiday and the rival that I'm writing, I always had the end goal in mind before I started. Yeah.
So what's next for you? Obviously, you've got your day job. Family man?
Yes, I've got 4 children.
Have you?
Yeah.
I
Struggle with this. 4 children and
Yeah.
being a
and
teacher.
speaking French. I can say
Wow.
bonjour. I can say por favor, but that's
Por
not French,
favor?
is it?
I remember.
Is it?
What's that? Por
What's
favor.
that?
Por favor.
Is it
Spanish.
French?
Oh, is it Spanish?
Yeah.
We failed.
Well, in fact,
In school.
you'd be welcome.
I've just insulted the whole of France. I'm sorry.
In the second one, they go to Mallorca on their holiday, and his friend's dad speaks pidgin French to all the Spanish-speaking people there. Merci beaucoup, all the time.
Yes. What was the
Je m'appelle.
Yeah. Woo.
Maybe you didn't
Je
have the right
m'appelle.
teachers.
Yeah. My French teacher, he was called Mr. McNeela. I can remember him at school. Yeah, really nice guy. But the moment we would sit down in class and start talking, he would start telling us about what he's done on his boat, because he lived on a canal boat, and so we never really learned it. I think that's probably us though, just being nightmare children. Yeah. Tell us about your boat, sir.
Yeah.
And then that would be it. Half an hour later, he'd still be talking about his boat, and we'd disappear off to
Just
playtime.
reminded me,
Then,
that was another teacher who I enjoyed. My French, Mrs. Martucci was her name.
isn't it
What's her
amazing
name?
how
Mrs.
names?
Martucci, I forgot about her. Yeah, she was amazing.
Was she? So yeah, what's next? So you got your 4 kids, you got your French, and you got your books. What about you? What's next for Ben?
Well, I mean, I would like to. I'd like to keep going with this. As you write, but you're not necessarily a marketer, and that's the tough part of it all. Is I've written what I'm really proud of. I hope that they seem to be well received as good books, but actually getting them out there into people's hands, in front of people,
Sure.
is quite a hard job. So I spend quite a lot of time trying to market them. I joined Instagram as a consequence of writing these books.
have you ever thought about doing the Comic Cons? I mean,
No.
Comic Cons have really taken over the world at the moment. It's where they get all the celebrities and artists and guests from around the world. But there's always trader halls where illustrators, comic book writers, and everything all get together. And I think you'd be really, really well pitched to have a look at what Comic Cons are coming up. Get a stand, have all your books, have your roller banners with you in the middle, do signed copies, and get them out that way. You know, I'm a Comic Con host, so I see it all the time, you know, of all these people coming through. So I really think you need to look into the Comic Cons. And we've had a guest on as well, another episode, a lady called Amanda Moss. You know, maybe look to contact her, because, you know, she's really good with PR and is really good at pushing people. So, you know,
good idea.
these are good books. They look good. They look
but
impressive.
also, do you only have the hardback? What about, you know, the online Kindles?
Yeah,
and
they're on ebook
on
as well.
ebook?
Yeah,
Okay.
paperback and ebook.
And audio?
Sorry, no, there's not an audio
Okay.
of them. That I haven't gone down that route. I know
You've
a
got a
couple of
brilliant
people have
voice
asked
for
about
that.
Yeah,
Well, you
absolutely.
could
Yeah,
do that.
absolutely. Audiobooks can work really well, and you know, obviously you've got David Walliams and people like that, and they're putting audiobooks out everywhere.
Yeah.
I would definitely look at us giving marketing things.
I know.
We're just TV hosts. Oh my days, oh my days. Ben, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank
to meet
you
you.
so
Thank you so
much for
much.
being on our show. Hope you have a safe journey back to Guildford. There you go, guys and girls. You've seen it here first. Go and buy them. Get yourself on Amazon now. Buy this gorgeous man's books. And we will see you again for another episode of Creatives on the Couch.